Hey everyone. Before I get started, I want to state that I didn't make this video with the intention of bullying, harassing, or literally slandering Slanderous. I just want to clear some possible misconceptions and thoughts of, as I think this is important. Please don't go out of your way to cause any sort of harm to reputation, as that is not the point of this video. I'll be responding to statements Slanderous made in his Why BP is Horribly Designed video, as well as his rework video. First, we're talking about defense. Obviously crushing counters are annoying, but all you have to do is bait and parry those. That goes for every hero with a crushing counter. You can even just deflect them if you're up for that. As for bulwark stance and flip, he's no different than any other full block hero. Obviously you can't attack a full guard without consequence, so GBs are understandably the rock paper scissors aspect that we're talking about. Conditioning still applies to catching a Black Prior in bulwark stance. The flip was designed to encourage a different, smarter approach, so being upset that it counters everything but a guard break is laughable. It doesn't discourage attacking, it encourages baits and GB mix-ups, like every other full block character. Having crushing counters and full blocks is not overly defensive, it's just flexibility. A perfect example of a very versatile defensive hero is Valkyrie. She has every defensive option except dodge cancels. She has crushing counters, a full block with back dodge properties, and two different deflect options. Since her deflect is actually a superior block, she can stop chains even when out of stamina. She's still far from great, don't get me wrong, but it's something to note. Black Prior has his forward dodge heavy superior block, but there's no point in really using it. Why is Valkyrie not as good? She has more chains and defensive options, but characters like Black Prior, Warlord, and Kyoshin all have better bashes, or have some kind of undodgeable or unblockable property on their heavies. Despite having only 2-hit chains, that's all you need to be effective. BP and Kyoshin are like the two older brothers of Warlord. If anything, the video should have focused on Warlord, since his kit and playstyle is even more simple and bare bones than Black Prior's. Where these characters lack in chain offense, they usually make up for with their full blocks and attack properties. Warlord always gets frame advantage after his bash. With Kyoshin, you have to read whether or not they'll go back in a Kaze stance, and you can even say the same thing about Warlord even. With Black Prior, he just has more options against unblockables. They each require slightly different approaches due to their offensive and defensive capabilities, so these are just things you need to mind. You also have to understand that these full block heroes with these 2-hit chains were designed in such a way to be oppressive enough with their attack properties where they can freely go back and forth almost between their attack and defensive options with full block. I think in that simplicity, that was the design decision behind these characters. I do agree that the bash is problematic in a couple of ways. Most people agree that stam damage and stam pause are unhealthy, that much is clear. Unpunishable or nigh unpunishable bashes are also not healthy. Medjai's Axeborn Bash has this issue. Aramusha being able to use Blade Blockade to cancel the recovery of Ring the Bell is pushing it a little bit. As for Black Prior's unblockable 50-50 quote-unquote, it can just be stuffed with a light of your own if they bash light in the Bulwark Slash. Little knowledge check. Zanhu has the same issue as the Shaman, and theoretically this just means he has less options to rely on his unblockable pressure. He needs to land a heavy for Bulwark Slash to be threatening, and this is unlike Raider or Warden, for example, who can just light and unblockable with no threat of being interrupted, if that makes any sense. Also, using outdated heroes without dodge attacks as an example for why you think the bash is too oppressive or boring to fight against is a poor argument at best, since we already know that most heroes that don't have dodge attacks are going to be getting them anyway. However, I made this video mostly because I found it comical to hear Slanderous describe Black Prior as anything but an annoyance, when in reality if you use your head a little bit you can either avoid or shut down certain behaviors. However, I digress. I realize Slanderous is going to be covering every hero, but I won't react to anything else. The important thing to take away here is that while Black Prior may be seen as boring, this is always usually because of 2-hit chains. His design is simple, where it revolves around a bash or undodgeable mix-up. He isn't limited to where you can put certain pressures like Kensei, Shaolin, Valkyrie, or even Griffin, for example. This can just mean that Black Prior can force reactions a little sooner than other characters can. Issues I've always had with Blackbriar are usually with his zone and soft main bash. I've always thought he needed a proper zone and not just another bash. As for his heavy soft main to bash, yeah, it's a dead move mostly, and I don't think this rework idea would fix the move anyway. Extra chains would be welcome, and I think everybody would agree. You know, everybody likes more chains. The fact of the matter is, you'll still be able to play Blackbriar as cheesily as Slanderous described before. You'll just have more chains to do it with. Obviously the aim is to make the hero more fun and complex to fight, but sometimes the simplicity isn't a bad thing, and even despite a character being more complex, somebody can still play a certain character very boring and optimally, and that's never fun, I guess. You also shouldn't base characters off of the dueling aspect alone either, because whether or not a character is fun is still entirely subjective no matter how you look at it. Individual content created polls don't reach a vast majority of For Honor players either. I have a strong feeling people would say Warlord is a more boring hero to play compared to Blackbriar, since all he really can do is bash and his weaker full block abilities, but I digress. John DeLander just made a video and he said he was having fun with the hero, so perhaps the whole argument about this hero being boring or that hero being boring is irrelevant completely. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I feel I had to say something just because I thought this was all kind of silly and funny to hear coming from Slanderous. Maybe I should have stayed quiet and chuckled myself, but I want to spread some more insight, I guess. I think this same discussion would better apply to Warden, since he's supposed to be a swordsman and not a shoulderman. But oh well, that's a completely different discussion. Anyway, thanks for sticking around. I'll see y'all in the next video.